What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have some more things to talk about in terms of this area of interest over here. So we're going to go ahead and dive into that today, just turning my light on, just to kind of let you see my face a little better. But regardless of that, we have some more things to talk about. We're seeing more computer runs, we're seeing more data coming in, and the NHC has upped their chances to 40% while keeping the tropical development is likely tag in the text right there. So yeah, we have a lot to go through. And what the good rule of thumb with this usually is if the NHC is using language like that, that's telling you that they are very confident that the system is going to develop, but it's just going to take more time to do it. And that's why they're only going with at a 40% risk right now, as I can show you right here. A broad area of low pressure is likely to develop over the southwestern Caribbean Sea in a few days. Gradual development is possible thereafter, and a tropical depression could form late this week or early in the weekend, or rather over the weekend, while the system moves and begins to drift northward and then towards the northeastward in the Caribbean Sea. I apologize for that. 40% chance of development in the next 7 days, 0% in the next 48 hours. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how this system will pan out as more and more operational runs want the system to head towards Hispaniola, while the ensembles are potentially calling for a Cuba and Jamaica impact. So regardless of that, the Greater Antilles need to pay very close attention to this. I would say that if you're in Puerto Rico right now, you wouldn't be. I would still keep an eye on it, but you're not in the greatest risk by this. If you're in the Dominican Republic, obviously Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba, and the Bahamas, you absolutely need to be paying attention to this because I've seen a lot of model runs calling for the system to be really strong, particularly the Canadian run and the GFS, which has been a little bit iffy with each model run I've noticed. They still want the damn system to develop, but they're not sure on the track of it, and I noticed the track of it's a bit more towards the outliers of the ensembles, but we will get to that in just a second. But regardless of that, pretty interesting situation pulling up right now as late season development is looking more and more likely. It's currently October 28th. Normally you'd see the tropics winding down after a pretty long season, but you have one last push of development going on into October and early November in the Caribbean Sea, and this hopefully will be the last hurrah from what was a very impactful hurricane season, because you had Beryl back in June and early July, then you had Debbie in Florida, then you had Francine, then you had Helene, and then you had Milton, which became a Category 5 hurricane with winds of 180. They're probably going to up it to 185 at the postseason analysis because of some of the recon data that they are going to have to analyze in there, as well as satellites. They're going to have to relook at that again. But regardless of that, though, we now have another system on the way. We also had Oscar happen as well. This will be Patty right here, which I know it's not Pat, that's Patty. I apologize for that, but yeah, it's not my name on it, so I am not trademarking this storm. If you guys know copyright, you know the joke I'm making. But anyway, regardless of that, my corny jokes aside, let's go ahead and dive into the Western Atlantic right here, just kind of give you a general gist of what we're looking at. So ultimately, big picture, just surface picture only right now with the infrared data. What you're noticing is satellite imagery with the Central American gyre right here starting to kind of see that popcorning. I am noticing that popcorning convection right there. That's a telltale sign of where the area of interest is, and it's kind of just staying off the coast of Costa Rica, Panama, and Nicaragua right there, and just kind of just doing its own thing. It's not really going to do much development. I am curious right there because there is a little bit of outflow I am starting to notice on this system as well, and I am curious to see how the system will pan out and how this will organize. But right now, it's not in a very healthy shape right now. There's really not much convection near the quote-unquote where the quote-unquote center is supposed to be. I only say center in terms of relativeness because I know meteorologically there is no center of circulation right now. It's just a bunch of thunderstorms clustering up. But you can kind of derive the quote-unquote center by looking at the outflow boundaries, by looking at the convection, and just kind of giving a general gist of what we're looking at. But with all that aside, let's go ahead and move over to true color imagery to kind of give you a better look at things. Right now, you're starting to notice that wind shear from the trough up in the Gulf of Mexico. You're noticing that outflow boundary a little bit more pronounced over here in the true color. You're noticing that convection starting to blow up again. That's going to likely die down, be that popcorn blow up stuff right there. And you're noticing more and more convection thanks to the Madden-Julian oscillation, which is currently over the Atlantic right now, or is about to be over the Atlantic, starting to develop. So we're going to have to pay close attention to that. Water vapor imagery is something we're going to have to watch as well, because now we need to look at where's the dry air at. And ultimately, what I'm noticing with the dry air is it's getting more and more mixed out. What this popcorning convection is doing is mixing out more of the dry air, and that is good news for the system right there, bad news for those who are in the system's path. But you're seeing that dry air starting to retreat more and more into the Eastern Caribbean Sea. Outflow is helping it out quite a bit. You're also seeing that mixing going on in real time, and you're also noticing more of that moisture gradient starting to fire up in portions of the main development region right there. And we're going to have to watch all of those synoptic features as well to kind of get a general gauge at everything else. So that's what we have in terms of the satellite imagery. Let's go ahead and once again pull up the conditions that we're taking a look at right here. We're going to go ahead and start with the sea surface temperatures right here. Sea surface temperatures still very, very warm, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking at 29 to 30 degrees Celsius all across the board. A little bit cooler in the Western Caribbean over here. A little bit warmer in the Eastern Caribbean, and as it approaches Hispaniola right there. Generally, you're about 30 degrees Celsius, and this is the last area of very warm water right here for this hurricane to organize and develop. And this was my main concern from last year, actually, because there were no hurricanes that entered the Caribbean Sea this year. We've had several that have organized, that have developed, that have moved through the Caribbean Sea. We've had Beryl move through the Caribbean Sea. We had Debbie make a quick dive down and drill its low-level circulation off the coast of Cuba and move through portions of the Caribbean Sea. We had Helene move through the Caribbean Sea, absolutely causing a lot of problems right there. And now we have this system moving into the Caribbean Sea. And ultimately, what hurricanes are known for doing, and I keep saying this like a broken record, I've said it all season, what they tend to do is they tend to cool the waters around it. So a bit of a positive right here, if you would consider that a positive, considering how potentially destructive this could be, is once this system moves through, it's going to generate a cold wave, particularly because of how slow it is moving, because I'm also noticing it's a very slow-moving storm as well, so that's going to cause a lot of upwelling in a very quick amount of time, and that's going to help cool down the waters even faster. I'm not saying that it's going to kill itself, it's going to choke itself to death because of the cool waters. There's more than enough fuel for the system to tap into, but what I am saying is this will be a benefit for the 2025 hurricane season, where, hey, yes, the Caribbean's still going to be a bit warm, but maybe you're going to see a little bit more of a retraction in terms of the intensity in the Caribbean Sea than we did this year, because we had a Cat 5 in Beryl. We had another Cat 5 with Milton, even though it didn't enter the Caribbean Sea. We had several major hurricanes. We had Hurricane Helene start to really organize and develop in the Caribbean Sea. So yeah, that's what we're paying attention to, and that's what we're going to continue to keep an eye on going forward. But regardless of that, we're going to go ahead and also pull up the climate reanalyzer, because what we're noticing now as well is, number one, they've updated the website. I'm really glad they decided to put some more work into this, because now we have actual data to show you what we're potentially looking at. But regardless of that, what you're noticing is the water temperatures that they peaked in late August right there. They start to level off in September and then cool off in October right here. But even regardless of that, and this is, for context, this part of the Atlantic Ocean from pretty much off the coast of Africa to Cuba, so it doesn't fully reflect the Gulf of Mexico or anything like that. I really do hope they do that, but I will say they do have an Atlantic hurricane main development region system that we are taking a look at. So ultimately, I will also be using this as well to kind of triangulate the data that we're seeing. But once again, we are seeing a bit of cooling going on right now, and especially over the last few days, we've seen water cooling. But that's been mainly over in the eastern portion of the main development region as the season starts to die down. And you have been kind of seeing this back and forth in terms of water temperatures between 2023 and 2024. For example, the North Atlantic, we were seeing the waters beat out 2023 for quite a while until June when they fell under right there, and then you started seeing this kind of leveling off and this kind of area where both were around the same area for much of October, and you're still seeing that as well. It's not really that bad right now in terms of how much the anomalies is. I mean, in terms of bad, in terms of how far away the lines are from each other, how far away the anomalies are. The anomalies are still really bad, especially for the climatological season that we're taking a look at. It's still not fantastic at all. It's still near record highs right there, especially for what we're seeing in October. But hopefully we can see a bit of hopefully we don't see that as much going into 2025, and hopefully we don't see what we saw over the last couple of years in terms of how fast the waters are warming and how intense these hurricanes are getting as a result of that. But water is just part of the equation. You're also seeing ocean heat content, and it was kind of those two scenarios because this really plays into what's going to happen right now in terms of whether it hits Cuba and Jamaica or Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Ultimately, it's one of two scenarios. Both are going to, I would argue, be equally as bad in terms of potential intensity right there. But I would argue impacts-wise, the worst-case scenario were if the system hit Hispaniola, and I kind of talked about it. Yesterday a little bit, but I'll go over some key pieces again. Generally, two things are what's going to make this a worst-case scenario. Number one, you have this massive area of 175, even over 200 OHC in a lot of those areas in terms of how warm the water is and how deep down it goes. That's what ocean heat content is in layman's terms. And one thing I will tell you is it kind of also ties into another point I made earlier in the video where I was kind of saying that the system's going to be moving pretty slow. If it moves towards Haiti and the Dominican Republic, it's going to be moving through this massive blob of OHC right there. And what that's ultimately going to do is, considering how deep down it is and how much fuel there is for the system to tap in, this system could make things a lot worse in terms of intensification, where the system could really rapidly intensify and really ramp up in intensity as well. And that would absolutely be devastating, especially if it heads towards Haiti or the Dominican Republic, especially Haiti, because of the second reason I talked about yesterday in terms of Haiti's political and economic problems that they've been dealing with. Haiti and Venezuela are the number one or number two poorest countries in America. It's kind of interchangeably recently. It kind of depends on the statistic. But the point I'm making about this is just Haiti is not in a great place in terms of dealing with hurricanes. Like Hurricane Matthew absolutely caused a lot of damage. Hurricane Jean in 2004 also did a lot of damage and killed 4,000 people, primarily due to mudslides as well. And now you have this potential system heading towards Haiti. Hell, even a tropical storm could cause a major problem for those people in Haiti right there, because you're still going to see a lot of rain, you're still going to see mudslides, etc., and I don't really need to belabor that point very much. I think I've made the point very clear. But regardless of that, we're also paying attention to one other thing we're watching, which is in terms of wind shear. Right now, the wind shear is really high, and that's why you're not seeing development going up right away. You're going to see a little bit of time that's going to be taken before the system develops, and this is why you're seeing a lot of wind shear over in the Caribbean Sea and in the Atlantic Basin. And I know this is right now, but right now is right now, and the shear is forecasted to decrease over this part of the Caribbean Sea as the system starts to organize and starts to develop, and we can go ahead and show you that right now based on the shear and moisture forecast based on the European run right here. Let's go ahead and go to the 200 to 850 millibar wind shear and kind of give you a general gist of how this is going to run down. You're going to see the wind shear start to decrease in the next 72 hours, and then you're seeing this trough, this positively tilted trough move into the greater Antilles right there, bringing a lot of wind shear along with it. Don't expect it to last very long, and especially as this trough starts to move out and you start to see a bit more of a ridge pattern start to organize and build up. But what you also are going to notice too is this system is going to organize and develop around that same time, and there is a very large possibility with this where this system could really ramp up, really organize, and really develop, partly due to the low wind shear where the center is, and partly due to where the wind shear angle is. Because if you take a look at these wind shear angles right there, especially in terms of where the trajectory of the storm is and how it rotates, and the rotation of the outflow as well, you're going to see that if that outflow gets caught into that jet streak right there, it's really going to tighten the pressure gradient, and it's really going to help enhance some intensification right there. That's usually what happens with these types of systems, and we've been seeing it quite a bit this year. We saw it with Helene, we saw it with Beryl, we saw it with a bunch of other storms like Francine as well. So it's definitely not out of the realm of reality that this could potentially happen, and that's pretty much the general shear forecast. The moisture component, you are seeing a little bit of dry air in the Eastern Caribbean right now, but you are starting to see the signs of a massive moisture infusion in parts of the Southern Caribbean Sea, and this moisture infusion is going to help cause this system to really organize, really develop, really ramp up in potential intensity, because there's not going to be really that much of a dry air problem, it seems, with this, especially if the system heads towards Haiti and the Dominican Republic right there. If it heads towards Cuba and Jamaica, it is going to run into some more dry air, and that's part of the problem with that. But if it does head towards Haiti and the Dominican Republic, it'll be a better environment for it, and that's just a kind of a trend we're going to have to watch over the next few days, especially as more data comes in from weather nerds and the Ensemble Runs that we're showing right here. Let's go. This is what we have right here is the 12Z GFS Ensemble Run right here, and what you are noticing with this is you are seeing a very obvious split in the models, as one portion of the models wants this system to head towards Jamaica and Cuba and impact closer to Florida right there, while the other system set of models wants this system to move towards Haiti and the Dominican Republic and head towards that region over there. Generally a bit of a weaker storm as well, which I do think is kind of interesting, and I'm not 100% sure how reliable the intensity of these ensembles are because of how all over the place they are, but regardless of that, it's something we're going to have to pay attention to. And also, I want to show the 0Z as well, as to kind of give a contrast. We were seeing a bit more of an all over the place. Now we're seeing two concentrated splits instead of just one, instead of just a huge kind of fan over a large plethora of areas. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to watch out for in the next few days. Pulling up the European as well, in terms of the European, in terms of the ensembles, sorry, I lost my wording. The European is still wanting the system to head towards Jamaica and Cuba, which I do think is kind of interesting as well. So you're seeing those splits in the ensembles right there, which is why I'm not putting too much stock into models right now, primarily because, yes, they want the system to develop. There's no downtrend to this right now, but you are noticing that those splits in the runs, and that makes it a little bit unreliable in terms of track. In terms of intensity, we're not even going to talk about that debate because we're not 100% sure. This system isn't even an invest yet, and we still need to pay attention to it. And we do think the system is going to develop. Hell, even the NHC says it right here. Broad area of low pressure is likely to develop over the southwestern Caribbean in a few days, but that's just something we're going to have to pay attention to. I'm a little bit kind of, and I wouldn't say flabbergasted, but I'm a little bit kind of, it's kind of interesting how the models are playing out with this system. It's not that they're not developing it, it's just that they're having a hard time tracking this as well. That's going to get better as the storm gets closer to development and as we get more data to kind of see what's going on with it. But ultimately, that's the main stuff that we're paying attention to right over there. And in terms of computer models and how the system is going to pan out, I'll just show a couple real quickly just to kind of show you the spread of this. The GFS wants the system to hit the Eastern Dominican Republic, and the Canadian model wants this system to head towards Haiti, which I think is an interesting shift over the last little while. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and show you the 0Z. 0Z they want this system to hit head towards Cuba right there. So we are seeing that kind of 180-degree shift in terms of track right there. So we're going to have to pay, once again, close attention to that. But regardless of that, this is still a very serious situation due to the fact that this could impact, once again, tens of millions of people. And we want to pay close attention to it because of potential impacts. And we will continue to keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal of this channel, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. Shout out to Daniel as an official sponsor of the Pat's Path Predictor Patreon. If you want to support the channel more directly, be sure to join the Patreon. It's the first link in the description down below. If you want to come talk tropics with us, be sure to join the Storms United Discord server. Link to that is right over there. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.